what are you at? It is Pam. It is the 4th of June, and it's been a really long time since I've done an actual sit-down Flosstube video to explain what I've been up to, what's been going on. I did do a almost month-long vlog for May for Stitch Mania. And upload like daily or every couple of day videos of what I was up to in May, but I haven't done an actual full-on Flosstube update, so I thought it was about time that I did that. I've been busy. For those of you, if this is your first time here, my name is Pam. Welcome to my channel. I am a maker. That's the best way to describe me. I'm a cross stitcher, I'm a crocheter, I now knit. This year I'm teaching myself how to do English paper piecing, so I've started quilting. I scrapbook, I journal, I have a little bit of everything thrown in. So, but my go-to is my cross stitch. So that's what my channel focuses on. Is mostly needlework. So I'm going to do a rundown of, I guess what I picked up and what I worked on while I was in Australia. I did take a trip to Australia in April, and I went to visit Ali from Ali's Stitching Studio. Ali and I have, I guess, through Flosstube, we met virtually online. But we've developed quite a friendship, and she's very near and dear to my heart. And her and I, she was here last year in May to visit me. I've now gone to Australia to visit her. We had a fabulous time, at least I did. I had an excellent trip. We stitched, we laughed, we did sightseeing, we had a little bit of everything thrown in. So it was a lovely trip. I loved Australia. I could spend more time there. It was warm. When I left here, there was snow on the ground. When I got there, it was like 27 degrees and beautifully sunny. Yeah. So, why don't we start with what I worked on while I was in Australia, as well as some acquisitions of things that I picked up while I was there. I'm going to kind of do this video chronologically versus, or maybe I will do it by craft as well, but I'm going to do it kind of chronologically. So I have my Tim Hortons iced coffee. I'm ready to go. So on the plane, on the way there, I worked a little bit on my English paper piecing because it was easy to take with me on the plane, and I just realized I didn't bring it up here to show you. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is at Pam's Crafty Corner, and I upload pictures almost on a daily basis of everything that I'm working on at the time, so you can follow there if you want to. So I did work on my English paper piecing on the plane, but I also took my Pat Rogers, this is just a working copy, but I also took my Pat Rogers tapestry sampler, which I had started for my birthday, I think last year. Yeah. So I didn't get a whole lot done, but I did add in some more of the border, and I finished off another letter. So this is where it currently is. I love the colors in this. This was on an old piece of 18 count, I think oatmeal, that I had in my stash that I had started a Christmas ornament on that never got finished. This is back in the days when I used to take my fabric around. So I just salvaged the piece of fabric and am stitching this on it instead. So what I did was I actually finished, I worked on this section here. I added in the O, I believe. If you hear all the little birds chirping, that's because I have a nest of starlings on my back deck, which is right there. Like I have my dining room door open and the babies have hatched and they're noisy. But I have to have the window open because it's really humid here today, and it's not overly warm. It's only like, I think it's 15 degrees or 16 degrees, but it's humid. So that was all I did with that piece. I didn't do anything else on that. My intention was to work on my death by cross stitch while I was there, and this didn't get a single stitch in it. But for anyone who's interested, I'll just show you what my death by cross stitch looks like because it's off the frame at the moment. Here we go. There it is. That's half of it. That's what I've got done. So I'm currently working on this section, and I am stitching this 1/1 on antique white Lugana. And I'm using DMC 939, which has a navy. It is a navy, a dark navy, although sometimes it shows up black depending on the lighting, but it is navy. You can probably see a bit of the blue there with the way the light is shining in the window. Yeah. So I took this because I figured it would be easy to pack. It's one color, easy to travel with. But I didn't actually pull it out. I am going to continue to work on this piece as my Friday off the grid needlework. That's a Facebook group for anyone who is living in a hole and doesn't know. There is a cross stitch group on Facebook called Friday Off the Grid Stitching, and every Friday we concentrate on a piece of stitching and work on it. That is what I'm going to do with that piece. So every Friday I'm going to pick that back up and get some stitches into it. So while I was in Australia, I had a couple of acquisitions. I was pretty good. I didn't go mad, but Allie and I went to this lovely little store that's pretty close to where she lives, and it's a small space, but it's kind of cram-packed with a bunch of stuff. And you really need to take time to kind of weed through it and go through it and have a look. I didn't want to add a whole lot of charts to my stash because I already have plenty of projects on the go. So I just wanted to pick up a couple of things that would remind me of my trip to Australia when I worked on them and that sort of thing. So I purchased another Long Dog sampler piece. This one is the Wishing Tree. I just really like the border on this, and I kind of like this, really like this section here as well. Actually, I like all of it. So I did buy this while I was there. I have the threads thrown in here with it, but I haven't started it. I'm undecided as to whether I'm going to put it on white or put it on some other kind of color. It looks very, there's pinks and greens, a little bit of mauve. So I just need to figure out what I want to do that on. That's one piece I picked up. The second thing I picked up was this one. I've had my eye on this ever since Ingeborg was stitching it. Ingeborg from A Stitch Too Far. Hello. This is Ink Circles Tapestry, and I just love this piece. Absolutely adore it. I think it's beautiful. I love that it's geometric, it's square, almost like a mandala, but it's square. And I did start this, and I got a nice little start on it. So I purchased a piece of, it's not cream, I'll tell you what it is. It is 28 count. Now, I've never heard of this before. I had to look it up. It seems to be an Australian type of material. It's an even weave, but it's called Monica. Monika. 28 count Monica. And I purchased this, and it was enough that I could split it in two and use it for two pieces. So this is how much of the tapestry I have done. So I started this while I was there with Allie, and I really, really enjoyed working on it. I'm actually doing this in the DMC colors. The chart specifies that you can use DMC, or I believe the original model was stitched in, what is this? It was originally stitched in Gentle Arts sampler threads, and that's what they have the color list there for, but they also have the DMC equivalents listed, and that's what I'm using. And I have to say, I do really like these colors. Love that teal, the browns, and the greens. So I have evenly completed this portion so far, and I will pick up where I left off when I'm ready to get back to it. So that was a really nice start on that. That was, got a fair bit done right off the get-go. Then Allie and I started another Long Dog sampler together while I was there. You know, she's not a bad influence at all. Are you, Allie? No. So I'm going to show you this, but this is not readily available. You can't buy this chart. This is a chart that was produced in, now I printed this with my printer, so it's only a black and white copy. You could buy a digital download, like a digital catalog of the Gift of Stitching magazine, and this was in the Gift of Stitching magazine. It's from January of 2007, and it was issue number 12. So if anybody has that, this was a printed magazine, I believe, but it was also digital. Like, you could purchase it to, I guess, an online copy. So it is called 18th Century Band Sampler by Long Dog Samplers. It was a mystery sampler that she had produced for this magazine, and it came out in 4 parts. And the pictures in the magazine, I thought it was really interesting because I haven't actually done like a band sampler. So I thought it looked really interesting in the pictures that I was looking at. And I said, oh, maybe I'll print that off. I know Allie has it in her stash too. And she was thinking of starting it because this was when she was doing her, she was focusing on a particular designer. And during the month of April, she was focusing on Long Dog samplers. And I said, oh, that might be a nice one for us to start. So the finished piece, you're not going to be able to see it because, again, it's just a black and white printed copy from my laser printer, but it's just a true band sampler. And bear with me. This is where I've gotten. So I started this a couple of days before I headed home. And again, it's on that same piece of 28 count. I'm stitching this 2 over 2, and that's what I've gotten done. The colors are really bright and vibrant. They're not colors that I typically stitch with. I'm typically drawn to more rich tones, like jewel tones or earth tones. But I have to say, I really like this. Look at those cute little ducks. Oh my God. So this is the band sampler. So I basically stitched the border at the top, the full width, so I would know. And then I started adding this part so I would know that it matched up and it was the right width. So I knew my material was wide enough. And then after I got so much of this stitched, I decided to move down and start the next band because I wanted to see what that was going to look like. And I'll probably do the same. I'll probably do so much of each band all the way down and then go back and start completing them. But I love this piece. So I hate to show you something that's going to be hard to get, or you may not be able to find. It's going to be like one of those unicorn charts, but I started it and I'm not sorry I did. So, so that was that. So that was all of my new starts and my purchases. Oh no, it wasn't. I also purchased a small pair of embroidery scissors that were like little tiny snips. Like they're literally just like, I don't know, 1.5 inches or 2 inches tall. But they're downstairs in my stitching stuff. So that's it. Allie also had a copy of this sampler, the Ann Hill sampler, that she had gotten on sale at the stitching shop before. And I really like this border. And I like the antique-y, like I like this old sampler. So, we had lots of fun going through her stash, and I had seen this at the cross stitch shop, and Allie said, oh, here's what the original looks like. It's more muted in colors now, probably because the colors have faded over time. But, so anyway, she gave it to me. So this was originally stitched in 1731. So I'm looking forward to starting that at some point. Not in the near future. The last thing I got while I was in Australia, that is craft related, I'll say, for the time being, because my memory might not. Allie got me a welcome gift for when I showed up at her house. And it was a lovely, lovely project bag and hand-dyed yarn. Oh my gosh. So Jan, who is a cross-stitcher, oh my God, what is the name of Jan's, I think it's Thread Garden. I think that's her name on YouTube or Instagram, Thread Garden. She also hand dyes yarn. And since I've gotten into knitting and really enjoy yarn, Allie ordered some yarn from Jan for me and a project bag. So this is the lovely project bag. A nice flat bottom drawstring with lovely plants and flowers and herbs. Right, nice drawstring bag. Love this. And wait till you see this yarn. So for anyone who's a yarny, oh, this is so lovely. Look at the color of that. It's this real soft purple, and it's like, it's slightly variegated. So it's darker and lighter. It's beautiful. This is the name of Jan's company, Bombed Yarns. They're on Instagram. They have an online shop, which I believe is on Etsy. Yes, it's on Etsy. I'll try and put a link down below for you. They're in Australia. And this yarn is a 4-ply, 100% Australian merino, superwash merino. And it's, oh, it's so lovely. It's soft and squishy, and I have to find something really nice to knit up with this, because I have 2 skeins which would be really nice for a wrap or a shawl. I love those because they're really versatile and I can wear them a lot. I also have some DK weight. I think this is DK weight. Maybe it's fingering weight. No, it's fingering weight, I think. Australian people confuse me when they put stuff like 4-ply. I don't know what that means in Canadian terms. It looks like it's a DK weight or sport weight. I'll have to double check. But 2 skeins, I could make a nice shawl with this, and I also have a little bit of this really nice navy blue that might look nice as a little bit of an accent or a stripe or something in amongst this because of the, you know, the violet undertone of that purple, I think. And I have a little bit left over from when I did my sweater, which is a DK merino silk blend. So I might use it up with this. I have to find a really good pattern. So yeah, so that is Jan's company bombed yarns, and I will put a link below. But I love that yarn, Allie, so thank you so much. Okay, now, since I got home, I have done some stitching. I decided I was going to focus on Jay's Folk Witch that I'm stitching for her as my Stitch Mania piece. Problem is, Stitch Mania was originally started so you could get all these starts and, you know, do what, I guess it was, I think it originally started as 15 starts for the first 15 days of May. And then people started doing like, you know, 30, one starts, one for every day in May. And then other people were doing a start a week. So it kind of has evolved over the last couple of years to really be whatever you want to make Stitch Mania be. So Stitch Mania for me this year, I decided to do Monogamania, where I took one piece and monogamously concentrated on putting an effort into getting some real progress done on that piece for the month of May. So I chose Folk Witch by Gecko Rouge, which I am stitching for the lovely Jay, who has a Flosstube channel as well. Jay is Mortuary Stitches on YouTube, and I believe she's Mortuary Stitches on Instagram as well. This is a chart from Gecko Rouge that Jay had purchased. It's a full coverage piece. I don't think Jay had ever stitched a full coverage piece, and she had taken it out and started stitching it and was having trouble with it. Had restarted it, I think, and anyway, it's such a beautiful piece, and I could just tell from her videos that she really would enjoy having it done, but she was kind of at a loss as to how to continue and whether or not it seemed like it was just going to get thrown by the wayside and never stitched, and I felt bad. And because I love full coverage and I'm just as much a progress stitcher as I am a finisher, I offered to stitch it and send it back to her. So this is where, now you have to excuse, it's still on my Q-snap. This is where it's currently at. I have gotten a lot done. So during Stitch Mania, this is 2 pages here to where the break comes in here for center. So this is 2 pages. I finished this page here, which had already been started, and I finished this entire page during Mania. So I got a lot done. So my plan now going forward, and it goes down further, it's rolled up in my Q-snap. My plan going forward is to do, like I said at the beginning of the year, go back to my regular rotation and do a week on this piece and a a week to 4 days or something on a project of my choice. That way I won't get burnt out working on this. I'll still be able to enjoy it, but I'll still have it in my rotation often enough that it will still continue to see some really good progress. So I have now put this away so that I can take out a piece that I want to work on for a week for my first go at my rotation for June. So when I finished this page here, that was the 30th of May, I think. And I said, okay, right, I'm done with the stitching of that for Mania. I will move on. I have one of those decision wheel apps on my phone, and I spun the wheel and it came up with, what's it called? Old World Map by Heaven and Earth Designs. I started this a couple of years ago as a new year, new start. I don't think I've worked on this in probably a year. Like it's been away for a while. So I took it out and here it is. It's currently on my lap stand. I do have a fair bit done on this side. It goes all the way down. But this is super confetti heavy. This down here is not so bad. Yes, there's multiple colors and stuff, but the section up here at the top is really confetti heavy, as you can tell by that. This is a bull that I'm filling in, this dark blob. That's what that is. So, and there's a person, a winged individual or a cupid or something up here that's holding on to edge of the banner. There's somebody standing here. There's some sort of laurel draped across this bull. The bull's head is supposed to be on that side. Yeah. So this is the top section of Old World Map. I am going to work on this for the rest of the week. Not the rest of the week. I already worked on it for a couple of days. So another few days while I'm off, I will work on that. And then when I go back to work, I might get a few stitches in between my shifts. And then next week I'll be back to Jay's Folk Witch again. So there you go. That's where I am on Old World Map. I think that's it for my cross stitch. I also finished 2 quilt blocks for the group that I'm a member of, and we stitch blocks for quilts of remembrance, as well as honor quilts, as well as quilts for people who are living with PTSD. So we stitch comfort quilts, and people pitch in. We volunteer to stitch a block. We pick something to stitch that is of that person's interest, like if they're a camper or if they love fishing, and we stitch stuff like having to do with their work life, their home life, their hobbies, things like that. And we stitch all the blocks. We mail our blocks to an individual with the group. They coordinate the quilt. Someone else in the group who is a quilter will then receive all of the blocks in the mail, and they put the blocks together and make it a quilt top and sew it together. And then we have other people in the group who are able to do long arm quilting, and they do that portion. So there's like several people in the group. Some are embroiderers, some are hand stitchers, like cross stitchers and stuff, and some are quilters, so they make a quilt block. And then, yeah, so I made 2, and they were both Tartan Newfoundland maps, but they're already sent off. And if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen them, because I sent them in the mail right before I went to Australia, so they were well done and dusted before I went away in April. Now, on to the next thing, knitting. I have been working on my yoga shawl. It was called a yoga shawl. That's what the pattern was called. It's by Drea Renee Knits on Ravelry. The designer's name is Andrea Mowry. And she recently changed the name to the Everyday Shawl instead of the Yoga Shawl, but this is where I am on it. It's a little large. So it's a wide piece. Hang on, let me see if I can pick this up by the end. And what you do is you stitch this chevron pattern border along the bottom, which then changes into a regular stockinette. So you have this knit on one side, purl on the other, with a little garter stitch border on the edge. And you knit that until it is long enough, and then another chevron section goes on the other end. And then there are also buttonholes. So this, depending on how you decide to wrap it and how you decide to button it, because there are buttons that go along the long edge, and I think some buttons that go down the side edge. Depending on how you button those to the long edge, you can create like either just like a wrap, or you can not button it and wrap it around like a scarf. You can fold it over and button it down the front so it's like a poncho. You can fold it over and button it around, like wrap it around you, button it in the back so it's almost like a little, what do they call those? Like a bolero jacket, like a cover-up, like a shawl. It's really versatile, I have to say, and I am enjoying stitching this. So the bottom portion I did not find easy as a fairly new knitter. I found the pattern easy to read, and I knew because it's all knit or purl, but it's not a pattern I can memorize because every row is different to create that chevron until you get a chevron done, and then the rows start over again. So I think it's a 14 row repeat. So it's not the sort of thing where you can mindlessly, so I have to look at the row as I'm sitting to go, okay, knit 3, purl 1, knit 2, purl 2, knit 3, purl, like it changes the whole way across the whole row. And then the next row is completely different from that row. And it goes 14 rows like that, and then you go to the top and you repeat. So I found that a little bit tedious, but it's done, and I like how it turned out. And now I'm into the mindless knitting of stockinette, which is really great at work because if we're not busy and I'm looking for something to kind of keep me alert and keep me busy in the middle of the night when it's like 4 o'clock in the morning, I can just knit on this. And because it's stockinette, if something happens or the phone rings, I get a call, I can just pitch that down, go ahead with my work, and then as soon as I'm done, I can go right back and pick it back up, and I don't lose a space or whatever. So that is what I'm currently knitting. Ta-da! All right, I'm running out of time. We're down to like a half an hour. I don't know how a half an hour got here, but I don't like really long videos, so I'm going to try and speed this up. The last project that I worked on has nothing to do with knitting or stitching or any of that sort of thing. It's a crafty thing. I have a traveler's notebook that I've used for years. I really like it, but this year I kind of decided I wanted my journal portion of my notebook to be more like a traditional bullet journal that I could use every day, and I could use it like a planner, but I could also use it to kind of just capture memories and bits and pieces about what's going on and lists of things. So I went out and purchased an actual bullet journal. So this is a, here's the name of it for anyone who's interested. I don't know how to pronounce that. Leuchtturm 1917. I purchased the one that has the dotted pages. I don't know if you can see those, but there are dots, little dots on the pages. And I have basically filled it out with like a calendar and you know, birthday calendars and things like that. a reading log, so I have to fill that in. I've already read several books in 2019. Excuse me, I just don't have them in there. YouTube, when I upload my videos, so I can fill that out. I have a bunch of things in here. Here's my little craft list. So this is my stuff for 2019. My, oh come on, focus. My yoga shawl, the journal I'm working on, and my list of current whips. And I don't think I'm missing any. I might be, but there's 19 there. And then I've just filled out like a monthly calendar, and I'm doing, you know, weekly pages. So, ooh, and podcasts I'm listening to with the episodes. This book will not fit in my traveler's notebook. So I wanted I like that I have my traveler's notebook so that I have a journal, and then I have another book where I have lists, and then I have another little booklet that I usually keep my craft information in. This is the size of my traveler's notebook. These were the size of the notebooks I was using. Okay, so as you can see, there's quite a difference in the size, right? Much more narrow and a little smidge taller than a regular bullet journal. But I like the fact that I could have separate books and use them for different things, different lists. But I needed a cover that could incorporate all of these and hold them together like a traveler's notebook. So I rummaged through my closet and I found this old day timer that I had back in my executive admin days when I worked for a hotel company. And before the, you know, daily use of calendars and phones and reminders and all that, and you would use a day timer to keep track of everything. So that's telling a little bit about how old I am, but anyway, here you go. This day timer had a binder inside of it, a 6-ring binder that you would put in your daily pages to keep track of your planning and your months and all that stuff. It is leather. I had a really good one when I did use this. Because I use it on a regular basis, I purchased a good leather one. But it was really rigid and not floppy like a traveler's notebook would be. So I ripped it apart. And on one of my Stitch Mania videos, I did show a portion of how I did this. But I totally ripped the binder part out, and then I ripped the leather part down to just, I took the inside cover off and ripped the cardboard out of the inside. So this is much more pliable. It doesn't have the really stiff cardboard in it. I then put this back together, and I'm now in the process of restitching the interior to the exterior. I already have this portion partly done on the top, and the needle is really hard to push through the leather and the inside, even though you can still see the holes of where I pulled the original thread out. It's still hard to get the needle to go through those layers, and I need to get a metal thimble so I can kind of push it through. Because I was pushing it through and then grabbing it and pulling it. And this grabbing motion irritates my tendon. I've got a tendon issue in my thumb. And I was working on this for a couple of days, pulling it apart, and then started stitching. I had repaired the pockets on the inside and restitched the pockets in. And then I started stitching the whole thing back to the leather cover, and then by then my thumb was done, and I ended up having to wear my hand brace for like a week. So I have to get a thimble so I can just push it through, and I don't have to worry about, you know, grabbing it so hard. I can just pull the needle out and stick back in. So this, once I get this stitched back together, I'm actually going to rivet and punch the back with a tool I have. Put the elastics in that will hold the, because look, this is just like the perfect size, right? It will hold this book and it will hold these, no problem. And it already has the pen loop attachments and everything inside. So that will work like a traveler's notebook, but it will be the right size that I want. Other than that, I made a new craft journal, and I put my stitching master list in here of my whips. Now, these pages that I have, these printed pages to go inside my journal, I got these from, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. Anyway, Stitch All the Things. I want to say it's Stephanie. I don't think it's Stephanie. Is it Stephanie? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Oh, isn't that the worst? Anyway, I went on her website, Stitch All the Things, and she has a free download of these sheets. Now, I don't have them all in here. I've started with the Master Stitch List, a yearly stitch tracker, which just has the months on it and all the days for each month, and the monthly trackers where you can list what whips you're working on and what days you worked on those whips. So as you can see, for June month, first, second, and third, I have worked on Old World Map. And on the first, I stitched on my yoga shawl, and I haven't done anything with upcycling that day timer since June came in because my thumb was too bad last week. I just haven't done anything with it. So when I get back to that, I'll just check off which days I worked on that as well. There's lots of other sheets that she has, like for tracking your fabric stash and things that you have kitted and all that sort of stuff. I just haven't printed those to go in this booklet. Instead of stitching this in like a book, which I used to do with my other booklets, I actually punched holes and put little brads in there. That way, if I want to add more pages in, or if I want to rearrange how the pages are, I can just pop them out and put them back the way I want them. And if I want to add more on this side so that I have some pages that are folded this way and I have some pages folded that way, I can also add more to the back. So that will fit nice and neat inside my new day timer, my new traveler's notebook when I get that done. And my last one, I'm just going to use this one for lists of stuff. You know, books that I want to read at some point, stitching that I'd like to purchase at some point, podcasts that I want to try, lists of things, YouTube channels I want to check out. Just a notebook, basically. I think we're done. I think that's it. Thank God, because it's like 43 minutes long. It's enough of me chatting. So I hope you have enjoyed seeing all of my things. I know this video is longer than my typical video, but that's because, you know, it's been a really long time since I sat down and actually did a Flosstube video. And I just wanted to make sure that I filled in everything. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments section. And I'll do my best to answer you. I do read them all. I sometimes don't reply to everything, but I'll put a little heart or thumbs up so you know that I've read it. If you ask me a question, I do my best to try and get back to you as soon as I can. I think that's about it. I have a dirt bike now outside as well. Yeah. My son is also graduating from high school this year, so we had his prom. I also had some pictures of him and his date when we went to prom. I had someone ask me a question about that. Actually on one of my Mania videos. So I had posted pictures of us out having photos done of him and his date and us, and we were all dressed up and we went to prom, and someone said to me, so you guys go to prom? Like, that's not how it works here. So how it works here is typically there is a banquet, either a sit-down dinner or a mix and mingle with food and drinks for all of the students, their dates, and their parents. That's usually around starts at 6, 5:30 or 6 in the evening, and we all go to that. There's a few speeches made by some teachers, some are made by members of the student council, and then they also give out some awards. Some of the students perform, could be songs or part of the band or something like that. And then around 9 o'clock, that's all over, and the parents go home, and I have no idea, kids outside. So around 9 o'clock, that's all over. The parents go home and the kids stay behind for the dance. And that goes on until I'm not sure what time, but my son was he participated in a safe grad experience that they had, and the bus picked them up from the location where the banquet was at 11 p.m. and they went to the safe grad location, which was like an indoor action arena, and where there was all kinds of activities, and they could get caricatures done, and they had a hypnotist and all kinds of things like that. And they stayed there until 6 a.m. the next morning, and that's when we went and picked them up. And they had snacks and drinks and all kinds of good stuff the whole night. So that's how prom typically goes here. Parents go. In our case, it was myself and my husband and my son's grandmother, she wanted to go. She's been to every single one of the grandkids' proms. So she's gone to the banquet for all of them. And we had a really great time. Marshall had a fabulous day. And so he's the baby. And he's graduating and starting university in September. So there you go. Thankfully, we live close to the university, so I don't have the added expense of sending him away to go to school. He's actually going to get to live at home while he's going to university, so that's good. I hope everyone has a fabulous day. I will try and stop in a couple of weeks to give you an update on my stitching and my crafting. You can follow me on Instagram at Pam's Crafty Corner. If you do like what you see on my channel, feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you follow along. Leave some comments, say hello, and enjoy your stitching or whatever type of crafting you're into. And we'll chat with you again soon. Bye.